Good morning, student. Today we are going to start with a new poem on his blindness by J Milton. Like the word is too much with us, on his blindness is also a sonnet, exactly the Petrarchan form of sonnet, which we have discussed in our previous lecture. Before starting the poem, let us know something about the poet as well as about the poem. Milton is a great English poet who wrote famous epics like Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. He was born in a middle class family. He also took an active interest in politics. After the execution of Charles I, he was appointed Latin secretary to the newly formed Council of State. His earlier poems were influenced by his knowledge of Latin and Italian literature. His poems like El Allegro and Il Penseroso belong to the tradition of Elizabethan lyrics. They are the finest expressions of his joyous and sensitive poetic nature. In his later years, Milton became blind. Whereas this sonnet is concerned on his blindness, it is a personal sonnet by J Milton. Milton has become blind at the age of 44. He is deeply disturbed. He thinks that he will not be able to do any fruitful thing in this dark and wide world. God has given him the talent to write poetry, but he no longer can use his poetic talent. It is lying useless with him, though he is very keen to use his talent, yet the loss of his eyesight is a very big handicap. Like a deeply religious man, Milton wants to serve the God. He has a burning desire to present the true account of his life to God. In spite of his willingness to serve God by writing poetry, he finds himself helpless. Milton faces a moment of crisis in his life. It is a crisis of faith. He foolishly asks if God would demand full utilization of his talents, even if he has become completely blind. He does not want to be rebuked by God, and he is very upset. In the second part of the poem, Milton Milton's restlessness vanishes away. An idea comes to his mind. His grumbling attitude is suppressed by patience. He thinks that God is very kind. He does not require man's work, nor does he want that somebody should return the gifts which God has given him. What can we give him that is not his own? Milton's view of God is that he is the master and man is under his yoke. That is, in his bondage. Thus, those who gladly accept whatever joys or sorrows he sends are his true servants. God is the mightiest king. He has thousands of angels at his beck and call. They carry out his orders faithfully. They are never at rest. Throughout life, they keep on working, they keep on serving the God. They are posted over land and seas, everywhere, on the earth, in the sea, everywhere there are angels, creatures who are constantly serving the God. Milton comes to realize that those who patiently wait for his order are also his true servants. He says that those who are having patience and who are patiently waiting for the orders, they are also considered true servers, true servants of the God. If he is not able to write poetry, the poet should not feel disturbed. What is important is one's willingness to serve the God. You are having desire to serve the God, it matters. The poet is no longer upset by the loss of his eyesight. The best way to serve the God is not through worldly achievements, but through complete devotion and surrender to Him. This is the very conclusion of the thought of the idea. If you really want to serve the God, worldly achievements, they do not matter. What matters? You should be completely devoted to the God. You should have to surrender yourself to the God. And this is supposed to be the true service of the God. Thus, Milton's inner voice makes him realize the true meaning of service. In this way, the inner sound, inner voice of Milton makes him realize what actually the true service is, or what actually the true meaning of service is. He resigns himself to the will of God. He surrenders himself. He resigns according to the will of the God. He humbly accepts whatever has come to his lot. In a very humble manner, he accepts whatever is given to him by the God, whatever the God has written in his destiny. He no longer murmurs against the will of God. Now he stops thinking, stops talking about the will of God. This was the very idea, the central idea of the poem. In our next lecture, we shall study the text of the poem on his blindness. Thank you very much.